Okay, good evening and welcome to the June 24th, Donna, do you think you could keep it down to a dull roar? June 24th meeting of Owen Sound City Council. It's good to see so many people here this evening, and the good news is we're not dealing with the cat bylaw, so you're in the right place at the right time. There you go. We have not completed our in-camera session of our meeting, so we will be returning to the in-camera portion after this meeting tonight. And having said that, we are now in the regular meeting of council. Who has the motions tonight? Yeah. Are there any additional items? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have two additional items. One is a financial issue. I would like to have an explanation of the $800,000 surplus that was mentioned at the public meeting last week. The treasurer has given it before, but I would like to ask him again. The other one is the median up at the 10th Street extension. I would like to speak about that.
Okay. Any other members of council? Councillor Lemon.
Your Worship, I would like to bring up a reciprocity idea with our neighbors.
Okay. Anyone else? Staff? Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. I can advise this evening that we have two bylaws that are being deferred. One is bylaw 2013-127, which has to do with a facility use agreement at the Bayshore. And the other is 2013-129, which is a bylaw respecting the concert factory using the J.D. MacArthur Arena. Those will be brought forward at a future time. I can also advise Council that tonight item 9D, which is a deputation, will not take place. The deputants will not be able to be with us this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Councillor Adair.
Thank you, Worship. I have one in relation to item 12B3, the Sydenham Group, as they are a sponsor with my employer.
Okay. Thank you. I'll now invite members present to join council in a moment of silent reflection, please. Thank you. Could I have confirmation of the minutes, please, from June the 10th?
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Adair, that the minutes of the regular meeting of City Council held on June 10th, 2013 be printed as adopted.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Minutes of the special meeting held on June 13th, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Adair, that the minutes of special meeting of City Council held on June 13th, 2013 as printed be adopted.
All those in favor? All those opposed? That's carried. Thank you. And the special council meeting on June 17th.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Adair, that the minutes of the special meeting of City Council held on June 17th, 2013 as printed be adopted.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We are now in Committee of the Whole, and I see that we don't have any public meetings. We do have a number of deputations. Oh, I didn't get you to read. Could you read them? Thank you. Yeah.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Adair that the City Council now go into Committee of the Whole to consider public meetings, deputations, public question period matters arising from correspondence, reports, matters tables, motions for which notice was previously given, and other business.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And now we're officially in Committee of the Whole. There are no public meetings. Deputations. We have a few deputations this evening. I see Mr. Thomas. If you'd like to approach the podium and introduce yourself and your address for the clerk, please.
Sure, I would. Richard Thomas, 803 5th Avenue A East, Owen Sound.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. As promised, I'm back tonight with the balance of the petition that I presented to you 2 weeks ago, plus some information regarding the public meeting held last week at the Legion. But before I start, I just wanted to explain to you why I'm standing here tonight. You know how I like my little stories, so I'm just going to tell you a little story for a minute. You know, I moved to Owen Sound in 1983 to work at CFOS. It was a short stop here, less than 3 months at that time, but something from that 3 months here has always stuck with me. And it was a story that the news department had covered. At that time, the then mayor, Ovid Jackson, was holding meetings with local high school students trying to discover why they were leaving Owen Sound after graduation and not returning to Owen Sound. Now, jobs aside, one of the things that really stuck with me was the suggestion that nothing ever happens here, nothing has ever happened here, and nothing will ever happen here. That was one of the main findings, and I'll tell you what, I was 24 at the time, and I believed it and left Owen Sound. 3 years later, I was back, having committed to stay here for a year. Well, it's been a long year. Around 1990, I decided to try and fulfill my lifelong dream to become a published writer, and that path led me directly into Owen Sound's past. I remembered what I'd heard, that nothing ever happens here. Well, I'm happy to report that I discovered the same thing that Andrew Armitage had already discovered before me. Simply put, the statement is not true. It's just a story that we've been telling ourselves about Owen Sound. Owen Sound has had lots going on. It's got a rich history. Aside from the already familiar and iconic stories of Billy Bishop and Tom Thompson, what are some of the other stories? I just thought up a few off the top of my head. Owen Sound, of course, was known as the gateway to the West. As many as 1 million people passed through this port during the settlement of Western Canada and the U.S. Owen Sound was a shipbuilding center. We all know that. The first steel-hulled ship ever built in Canada was constructed here, and the Kennedy Foundry produced the majority of the propellers used on Canadian warships during the Second World War. Red Ryan, a bank robber referred to in his time as Canada's John Dillinger, was first sent to the penitentiary after he was arrested in Owen Sound following a daylight gunfight in Queen's Park. The bloody Battle of the Coal Heaps saw trainloads of strikebreakers armed with bats and axe handles coming to Owen Sound and fighting on the waterfront with striking dock workers here. This made national and international headlines at the time. This one's my favorite one. Prohibition lasted longer here than almost anywhere in North America. We're all laughing, we joke about it now, but this is one of our stories, and it's an important story. Owen Sound was the epicenter of the Portland cement industry in Canada and at one time all of North America, and of course Agnes MacPhail, Canada's first female member of Parliament, attended the OSCVI. Those are just a few things that I came up with off the top of my head that I've read over the years. I could go on and on, I'm sure you know that. We have a lot of stories to tell here in Owen Sound, many with national and some with international significance. But we need a place to tell these stories, and the Owen Sound Marine and Rail Museum is that place. We had almost 400 people come out to our public meeting at the Legion last week, and some of them are here with us tonight. Thank you all for coming. Most attended that meeting for one reason, to demonstrate to you, our City Council, that there is great support and great interest in the future of this museum. We now have a list of 55 people interested in volunteering their time and energy to help reimagine the Marine and Rail Museum. The goal will be to develop a sustainable model moving forward into the future. What will that model be? I have no idea, but I can report that we have received many excellent suggestions from the community. I'm happy to report that in addition to the volunteers, we received pledges of financial support totaling just under $9,000, which I think is an excellent start. And the petition. I'd like to present you the rest of the petition, including the signatures that you've already received. 2,421 people have signed petitions asking City Council to reconsider your decision regarding the Marine and Rail Museum. in view of all of that information, what I'd like to ask tonight is this. Please put your RFP process on hold, at least until the end of this year, to give us time to create some new possibilities for the Marine and Rail Museum. If you approve that action tonight, the next step will be for those who have volunteered to sit on the steering committee to get together and start working. The first meeting of that committee will be next Tuesday evening at the Legion. We hope Council will support this important community initiative. I can't think of anything that has brought so many Owen Sounders together, and I look forward to moving on with this. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight, and if there are any questions, I will try to answer them.
Sure, thank you very much. And it looks like we might have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Worship. First question, Mr. Thomas, about your timelines. You said the end of December. Now, how did you arrive at the end of December?
Well, it was my guess that the budget has been set, the museum has been budgeted for this year, and therefore, by asking you to continue on till the end of December, we're not asking you to put anything additional into that museum other than what you've already committed at this point.
And my concern with that is if council was willing to have that timeline to the end of December, then it would take time to consider whatever proposal might come forward. We're into January, February, more than likely. I'm just wondering about the timelines. I'll look to our Director of Financial Services. When will we be discussing budget this year? We don't have those dates yet, do we?
Sorry, through your worship, no, we haven't set the dates, but we would normally start discussing budget in October.
So my question then, Mr. Thomas, would a earlier, certainly I'm not opposed to giving a community group like you've discussed more time, would an earlier time work for you?
You know, I really can't say, because at this point, we have been totally focused on getting here tonight and making this request tonight. There is no official committee in existence yet. You know, more time is always better, but what I would be happy to do is report back to council in writing on a monthly basis on the work of the committee, if that would help in terms of you knowing what's going on and, you know, not having a sense that I'm going to show up on December 30th and say, well, sorry, we couldn't do it. Because we are going to do it.
No, I know,
I guess that as a group, all we're looking for here is a little faith.
well, certainly, and I want to thank you for coming tonight. I was actually quite happy to see the turnout at the Legion last week, 350 or so people. As someone who supported heritage and for a number of years on council, and sometimes that's been a lonely place to stand. Other councillors here have as well. It was very gratifying to see the community get behind our heritage. You know, and so I for one was sort of heartened to see that. That's great to see. That's what community is all about. My only, and I was pleased to hear you talk about sustainability. Council didn't arrive at the decision we'd arrived at lightly. Council, there was many discussions over many years about the funding model, discussions with the museum board. Sustainability, I suppose, is the key. Business plan is the key. There's been many dedicated volunteers over the years. People, you know, a number of them here in the audience, Jim Henderson and Ron O'Donoghue and John Totten and many others, Wayne King, who have done, you know, years and years and years of hard work to get that museum to operate and keep it operating. I suppose the problem is, moving forward, is that model, it's difficult to see that model continuing in its present form. So, you know, I agree. I certainly, you know, I guess I would say if it could be done like that, those gentlemen and ladies that have been involved have done admirable work, and they would have done it by now if it could be done. So I think we need to look, or the committee needs to look at a different way of doing things. Certainly I have no problem with extending a timeline to allow a community group to come up with a plan. That's certainly something I could support, but I think those are all my comments for now. I'll close my comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Lemon.
Well, to add to your list of stories, Owen Sound was once known as Corkscrew City, as we were the wettest city in Canada before we became the driest city in Canada. I won't comment on that. But To me, to give to the end of the year is because what has to happen is a new model has to be developed, as the councillor said. And when council originally brought forth the motion to put it up for lease, we didn't realize that there was the groundswell of support for it. And that groundswell has grown and it continues to grow and will continue to grow with the actions that have occurred so far. To me, the number of people who showed up tonight at the Legion and in the petitions are a reflection on the work that has been done by those people early on who've been involved with the museum. And we owe, as a city, a great deal of thanks to them for their hard work, their dedication, and what they've gotten into it. Now we have to change the model. That doesn't reflect negatively at all on what they have done and what they've accomplished. But when you get the largest public meeting I've seen in Owen Sound in many, many years over a heritage issue, that is the most pleasant thing to those of us who believe heritage is our greatest asset. I believe it is. And I certainly am going to, Madam Mayor, bring forward a request that item 12E1, which was my notice of motion, I'll bring that forward at the end of this presentation to, as soon as the delegations are finished, that we discuss that. So we will move it up on the, my request is to move it up on the agenda so everybody doesn't have to get cooked. There is an air conditioning system. Yeah. Well, that, I didn't answer that question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Purdon.
Yes, I'd also like to thank you, Richard, and everyone here for coming to tell your council how you feel about the Marine Rail Museum, and for coming forward with a plan to keep that rail museum viable and moving forward. It is a really important part of our community in the harbour, and speaks to us all, I think, as a public place that's there for everyone. And I'm very, very glad to see so many people here, and I will be supporting any motion to move forward so that that museum can continue as a community asset.
Thank you.
Any other? Any other members of council have a question for Mr. Thomas? Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Worship. I put a motion on the floor that we extend the deadline for the RFP till, and I'm going to say till the end of November, simply because I think by December that would extend. So my motion is to extend it till the end of November.
We have a
Your
motion
Worship,
on the
I would
floor.
like to make an amendment, which I know will not be friendly. And my friendly amendment is this, that we, and I've already checked with staff, and this is a very clean way of doing it, is we cancel the requests for proposals. Under the terms of our request for proposals, it allows us to do that, and I would refer to, if I could through you, to Mr. Ritchie, Director of Finance, who can answer that.
Certainly, but I have to say, Councillor Lemon, that that's not an amendment, that's a whole new motion. So the motion on the floor would have to go. Should that motion not succeed, then I would encourage you to put that motion forward. Thank you, Mr. Thomas.
Thank you.
Councillor Body.
Thank you. I'll be supporting that motion. And my reason being, it's a 1 month difference. This doesn't mean that we have to have it done in 5 months. It doesn't mean you have to have your final proposal to put together in 5 months. You have to have a plan. The transition date can be any time. It can be the end of December. It could be on into next year. This just gives us a chance to move ahead a little bit sooner, look at other proposals that come in. We need to be flexible. We do have to look at budget. I know some people don't think we should. We have to look at budget. We have to look at a plan. We have to look at what works for all of us. It may be that some of the other proposals that will come in will be magnificent, and everyone in the room will say, great idea. It may be, it may not be. I encourage everybody to be flexible with your group that you put together. As they move forward with Mr. Cameron and others that move forward with the plan that they're going to put together, they don't know what it is yet as such. It can't be like the one that's just failed, quite obviously. We've got 2 buildings down on the harbor, both of them train stations. Both of them will work perfectly. One of them, I think, works better than the other. But that's a flexibility thing that we all need to look at as we move forward. I'm supporting the motion to move that deadline to the end of November. It's not to the end of the year. It moves it up a little bit. It just gives us a little bit of time to be able to make a decision, consider all the offers that come in, and be flexible.
Councillor Twaddle.
Thank you. Richard's moved back to the back of the room. He may or may not want to answer this question. He did commit to keeping council informed on a monthly basis. I think you indicated in your remarks you appreciate the budget challenges that council will be facing. If you're going to give us monthly reports, that would be August, September, October, November. There would be 4 reports, say, at the beginning of each month. So that the end of December, which is the motion, I believe that you would have a very strong indication by that point whether you are able to find a model that you believe will work. I would say certainly, as one member of council, as we see progress going forward, if there's a need for more time, if there's a need for more investigation, I think we would certainly be open to that. You've been a journalist, you're a writer. I was a journalist for 30 years. I found nothing focused the mind better than a deadline. I support the motion, but understanding that we won't be operating in a vacuum for 5 months. There will be regular information coming back to council. There'll be an ongoing dialogue, and I think that's great. And if 3-4 months down the road there's a need for more time, I think that we would be open to that.
Thank you.
Councillor Lemon, then Councillor Purdon.
Okay, I'm hearing 2 different dates. I'm hearing November and December. Which was in the motion, please?
Motion was November 30th.
I would ask for a friendly amendment to the end of December to give them a reasonable length of time. They're going from an absolute dead start with a lot of good intent, and I think we need to support to the maximum. So I would request the friendly request that the motion be amended to the end of December.
I'll go to the mover of the motion.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't accept that as a friendly amendment. The city, this group, the city need to understand their budgets moving forward into 2014. I don't feel moving it to November, and as Councillor Twaddle said, if there's some pressing issue that comes forward in November that needs to be dealt with from the committee, we can deal with it at that time. But I think we need to have a deadline to move forward on as far as budgets go. So no, I do not accept December as a friendly amendment.
Your Worship, I would therefore make a motion to amend it and ask for a recorded vote on that.
Motion to amend the motion with a recorded vote. I'll ask the council.
Motion to December.
Yes.
Motion to amend to strike November and replace it with December?
Yes. If you could poll council, please.
Absolutely. Councillor Adair?
Opposed.
Councillor Boddy?
Opposed?
Councillor Chamberlain?
In favor?
Councillor Lemon?
In favor.
Councillor McManaman?
Opposed.
Councillor Purdon?
In favor?
Councillor Twaddle?
Opposed?
Councillor Wright?
In favor.
And Mayor Haswell.
In favor.
The motion to amend is carried with 5 in favor and 4 opposed.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Thomas, and just if I can make a comment in terms of... I'm sorry. Do remind me.
We've now done the motion to amend to change November
Correct.
to December, and we should, as a group, now vote on the original motion.
Please, could
As
you...
amended.
Could you read the original motion for council, please?
The motion on the floor, as amended, is that we move to extend the deadline for the existing RFP to the end of December.
Further discussion? That was just the amendment.
Your worship, request a recorded vote.
Absolutely. As I thought, poll council. Yeah.
Councillor Adair?
In favor.
Councillor Body?
In favor?
Councillor Chamberlain? Councillor Lemon?
In favor? Councillor Chamberlain.
We're voting on the original motion, which has been amended. The original motion was November 30th. We then amended it to December 30th. We're voting on the original motion with December 30th.
The motion as it now stands. The motion as it now stands is that the RFP currently in existence for the Marine and Rail Museum be extended to the end of December. Councillor McManaman.
In favor.
Councillor Purdon. Councillor Twaddle.
In favor?
Councillor Wright.
In favor.
Mayor Haswell.
In favor.
Thank you. That motion passes with a unanimous vote in favor.
There are no further motions in front of council at this time. I would just like to make a statement, and that is how heartening it is to see so many people that are so supportive and interested in preserving the heritage and the great stories that we have in this community. It is something that I have worked with many members of this council over the years to preserve our heritage, to protect our great stories and our great history, and I congratulate all of you for taking up this very big task. And I certainly wish every success. So all the best, and if you would like to stay for the rest of the evening, we have some very good news ahead. Thank you. We'll just give them a couple of minutes to clear out. Okay, we are back and the business of council, and I welcome, not right now. Thank you, though. We have two more deputations, and one is a presentation from Councillor David Adair, who is here on behalf of the Owen Sound 150th Legacy Fund Committee, and I'll invite Roberta Brignell on behalf of the Community Foundation Grey Bruce. Welcome.
We're actually here to get a check from
I
the
know.
city, Your Worship. Your Worship, members of council, I just wanted to bring you up to date on what is happening with the 150th Owen Sound Homecoming Legacy Fund. The committee that's in charge of this money, which was money generated during the 150th Homecoming, have decided to change the name to something somewhat shorter and something somewhat more relevant as we move into the future, and that is the Owen Sound Community Fund. That brings us in line with several other funds under the umbrella of the Community Foundation, such as the Meaford Community Fund and the Saugeen Shores Community Fund. So we would be basically having the same name. And we also have chosen a goal over the next 2 years, and that is to support community gardens with the revenue generated from the funds. And hopefully someone has a check for us.
As a matter of fact,
Is that you have a check for us?
Yes.
All right, excellent.
I'm coming down there right now.
All right. At the end of the 150th homecoming celebrations, a fairly large amount of money was put in trust with the Community Foundation, but about $2,400 was held back with the city for any bills that might be coming in. We're pretty sure at this point, about 6 or 7 years later, that all the bills have been paid, and the money that the city has been holding for that time can now be turned over to the Owen Sound Community Fund as part of the Community Foundation.
So, thank you. The City of Owen Sound Homecoming 150th celebration, of course, was back in 2007. And it certainly was a great celebration, and a lot of volunteers were involved in putting on the homecoming celebration and participating on the organizing committee. Net proceeds from the celebration were used to establish an ongoing fund, as Councillor Adair has mentioned. And tonight, I'm pleased to present a final check from the Owen Sound Homecoming Celebration Reserve for $2,568 to Councillor Adair, representing the committee.
It doesn't actually have my name on it.
No,
but
no, it does not, just for the record.
it does say Community Foundation,
That's
Grey
right.
Bruce,
Yes,
and
it
so
does.
I will hand that over to
Thank
you.
you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
you.
Did you want to say a few?
David Adair is chair of our committee for the Owen Sound Community Fund. And going forward, I think we'll be very pleased to support some of the community gardens that have started. We have already assisted them with planting. We are assisting them with taking the watering, and we'll be taking the proceeds of these gardens back to the food banks and the Canadian Mental Health lunch program. So we're very happy to do that for you.
Thank you so much.
I'm up again.
And here you are again.
Yes.
With Victoria Serda on behalf of the Community Foundation, and this is with regards to a very exciting program through Community Foundation, and a tremendous gift from a former Owen Sound resident, Ms. Eva Lafleur.
Yes.
And this is the tree planting memorial program.
Yes, in December of 2012, we lost one of our founding members for the foundation, Eva Lafleur. And in June of this year, we made an announcement at our annual AGM that she had donated just over $6 million to the Community Foundation, which brings our total assets to just over $12 million and will double the amount that we're able to give out in grants each year. As a tribute to her, one of our board members, Victoria Serda, has come up with a plan that she would like to propose to you tonight, and I'll introduce her now. Victoria?
Thank
Welcome.
you.
Madame Mayor. I'm used to saying Mr. Mayor because in my municipality there's never been a female mayor before. I'm from Saugeen Shores. I'm the chair of the Saugeen Shores Community Fund, as well as sitting on the board of the Community Foundation Grey Bruce. So I'm wearing a number of hats tonight, as well as representing the Saugeen Shores tree planting group that's called Trees for Saugeen. So we've all of my different hats have been partnering with each other in order to be able to create this program that we're bringing to you tonight. So if you could honor me for a minute, I wanted to do a really brief overview with what a community foundation is. I've been traveling around Grey and Bruce counties giving this presentation, and there's always a variety of understanding or of how much, what a community foundation does, basically. So we basically have three things that we do. Like there's a foundation that connects geography. It's a way for us to be able to grow and for us to grow together. So we're a special type of charity that's created that is allowed to build funds. You know, most charities have to give away a majority of their funds every year, but foundations have a little bit of a different way of being able to do things. And so what we do is we strengthen our area through endowment building, grant making, and community partnerships. So you've probably noticed over the years that we have a few different roles that we do. So the first one is around endowment building and personalized service. So I'm not going to take much time on these things, trying to give consideration to your long meeting already, and I'm sure you've got lots of business yet to go. We also help out with grant making. So there's, we assist organizations with figuring out the best ways to be able to do their grants, as well as trying to fit them with our grants to make sure that we're getting the funding out into the communities that we have. And we also try to look at what the needs of the community are so that we're meeting the basic needs first. The things that the people in the areas have directed us are the most important to them. So the third one is around community leadership. So for example, we do things like partnering with the Trillium Foundation to do nonprofit governance workshops, which we've done over the last couple of years. And we teach things like the new accessibility standards that are coming in for nonprofits, relating to board governance, what you do with filing all of your taxes when you're a charity or a not-for-profit, all those little things that quite often we're not having the same knowledge sharing that we used to have between volunteers. So we're trying to fill that role of doing a little bit more of the learning of how you make an organization effective. So we obviously have a lot of strong ties within the Grey and Bruce communities, as evidenced with the people that you probably all know that are involved. And we have a very strong ambassadors group as well who go out into the various communities and speak for us. The first community foundation was founded in 1921 in Winnipeg. The national conference was just held there. The Governor General attended. It was two of our board members went, the chair and the vice chair, and it was an awesome conference. In 1994, you can see that Eva Lafleur was the first donor to the community foundation. And I'm an Owen Sounder. Some of you may know that. My mother was, my grandmother was, my grandfather was, and they all knew Eva. My mom actually worked with her at the Children's Aid Society. My grandmother went to talk to her about adoption. So she's someone that a lot of people in our area have known well, and she was one of the most generous people that you could meet. So. All across the country, there's close to 200 community foundations who are all doing a similar type of work to what we're doing here. So we gave out, actually this year, about $175,000 worth in grants, and we should be able to give out more as time goes on, especially due to the generosity of Eva Lafleur. So many of you will know a lot of these names here, but right now our chair is Donna Elliott, and the vice chair is Donna Marinacci. And Cliff Billier is our past chair. There's a few familiar names here from Owen Sound, like Glenn Henry. Marianne Kipke was on our board until the last term, so you've been well represented in the past by many of your staff and other people. Ovid Jackson is an ambassador, Lal Love as well. So we have a lot of connections here in Owen Sound. And we have a lot of, the normal types of things that make things run really well. And you all met Roberta already. We have a number of staff that also help us. So I'm actually going to go through these slides because I know it's taking a little while. And I'm going to get on to the fun part about the tree planting, because this is the thing that's really close to my heart. And I don't know if any of you knew me back when I went to OSCVI, but I did the first environmental conference there. We started the Blue Box recycling program. I worked with Chris Hughes to get the recycling going in the schools in the area. So this is something I've been working on just for a little while. I'm actually turning 40 in a week. So, time goes by. Yeah, I'm not one of those people that are afraid to say how old I am, but I'm not looking at you, Roberta. Anyway. So Eva was a committed philanthropist. You can tell we know each other well. I can make those kind of jokes in public. We really wanted to do something that would be a proper memorial. I'm sure you all have that feeling that you want to have the proper legacy for somebody that has given so much. And so for me, tree planting is the best kind of memorial that can be done for anyone, because it helps communities so much for health purposes, for making people feel a sense of community. It raises property values. It gives us better oxygen. The kids can play out in the sunshine on a hot summer day like today if there's shade. But there's a lot of things like that we don't always think of, all the peripherals of tree planting that come along. But it also is a great way to build a stronger sense of community with people. In my town, we've raised consistently over the last few years over $40,000 in cash. And last year, our program was worth $180,000, including the in-kind value of the tree planting programs we're doing. So it's the type of thing that if you get going on it and you have the community support, it can really build into something that does a lot. Now, I also know that here in Owen Sound, there have been a lot of special projects that have happened around, like when the trees fell down in Harrison Park, and in other times when there's been a really good community support for tree planting. So we're hoping that this grant will help to support that as well. So we're offering $1,000 in a matching grant to every municipality and territory in Grey and Bruce counties. And Everest Nurseries, that's in Hepworth, and they're the only caliper tree grower. So they're the ones that grow the really, really big trees. So when we do tree planting in Port Elgin or Southampton or Saugeen Township, we normally buy trees that are 2,500 pound root balls, and they're about 30 feet tall. And so you need big, heavy equipment, but if you put one of those trees in next to a playground, you have almost automatic instant shade. And it makes you feel like more welcome, and the kids want to go, and the mother can go with her stroller and be right next to the playground while their kids are playing. So it's the type of thing that is a very, really good instant benefit too, especially as you guys had with the council tonight. Sometimes it's really nice to do something positive with the community that they recognize and that everybody feels good about. So it's another reason I'm glad that I'm coming with this on behalf of the Community Foundation. So basically, if the City of Owen Sound puts $1,000 in, then you get $2,000 additional value in trees. And there's 3 different case studies that we've done in our town. We've done one from Kincardine, one from Saugeen First Nation, and one from Saugeen Shores that we can provide to you if you'd like to participate. And what we've done historically is that we do a little bit of extra fundraising on the side to see if we can get the pot a little bit bigger so you can make a bigger splash. In our town, we actually have regular donors that give $500 or $1,000 every year, and it really helps us out to be able to do bigger programs around the municipality. In our first year, we raised $9,000 just in cash alone. So if say Owen Sound raised $5,000 in cash, and you had the $2,000 that was the $1,000 from the foundation and $1,000 from Everest, then that would be the equivalent to these. So I'm trying to help you understand what it means. So it'd be 25 of those huge sugar maple trees that are 2,000, 2,500 pounds each. It could also be for the 3 of all of the different types of trees that he has on that program that are the big trees. So it's kind of slow coming up, but It can also be 100 medium-sized trees for a community tree planting. That's the style that we did in Saugeen First Nation, where we planted all over their village, at the daycare center where the elders building is, at their administration center. And that was a really nice day. They had a barbecue twice during the day, and they had people come out kind of in and out the whole day. And then another program that you could do is having 200 medium trees at a half-price tree sale. This is something a lot of municipalities used to do in the past, where they had trees that they would provide. And it's a really popular one in our town. We had I think it was 240 trees we sold this year at half price, and it was really, really popular. We actually maxed out all the funding that we had for that program. So basically, the only thing that we would ask in return is that you choose one tree that we can have a plaque that we will provide. The Eva Lafleur Foundation representatives want to be able to design that plaque and provide it, and to do a media release and a photo at some point with that tree and the plaque. So I think it's a pretty easy thing to do if you agree to participate. So, and in the future, we want to inspire more tree planting. It's partially because, with the emerald ash borer coming into the area, we're going to be losing a significant amount of trees, and we need to start thinking about replanting in those areas where the ash are. But we also want to start building an endowment fund so that all the municipalities in the area will have somewhere to apply for funding to be able to get more money for trees in the future. So we're working on talking with donors to get an endowment fund set up specifically for that. So if you don't know of anybody that likes trees and wants to give money, then pass them on to me. I'll talk to them. So basically, I'm doing a lot of this work. Some of you may know my daughter, Karina. She's 17. Sometimes when you have kids, the way you think about the world is a little different, because you want to make sure that the future is going to be there for them in the way that they can really be part of a community and be able to be outside and be healthy and active. And so that's the reason why I'm here. And so, sorry, I'm just going to skip through those ones. So I just want to finish by saying that, the community foundations are all about growing a sense of community. And we already have, so Meaford, Saugeen Shores, Georgian Bluffs, Southwest Peninsula, Saugeen First Nation. I think those are all on board right now already with this tree planting program. And we hope that you'll be the next on the list to want to participate. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Councillor Lemon.
Your Worship, a number of years ago when I was a youngster, Owen Sound was known for the magnificent maples in much of our community. Over time, chop for various reasons. And the example where I live now is a huge chestnut tree which is starting to go. The time to plant new trees is before the old ones are gone. So they're successors. Any horticulturalist will tell you that. So I would make a motion that we get a staff report on this opportunity. I think there will be excellent community support, because one of the comments I get repeatedly is, why aren't there more trees being planted by the city? There are many streets, and the other thing I like is you're not putting up a tiny little sapling that you can barely see and somebody's going to run over with a lawnmower. That size tree, they're not going to. And these people are professionals with the big trees, and they would install them correctly, and you can transplant major trees with good success if it's done properly, and these people are quite capable and obviously have the equipment to do the root ball and the lifting. And so I would make a motion that we ask for a staff report on this opportunity to come back as soon as possible, and then we can make a decision on going ahead with this. And thank you for your excellent presentation.
Thank you. Councillor Chamberlain.
Well, I'll certainly support that motion. I also wanted to compliment the group on doing this. It's a well-done presentation for sure. Can I ask if we have in our budget money for trees? And I think I spoke with Mr. Howard about that. He mentioned that if he had input to this, he was thinking about Castle Beach for this, but it would go back to the Parks and Recreation group to discuss this.
Through you, Your Worship, if I could, I'm just wondering, certainly there is a budget, a budget line for new trees in the city. I'm just wondering about some clarification where you say match funds must be raised. And what are raised funds? Are they funds that are potentially already in a budget? Would they be funds that have been perhaps gifted to the city through a different estate, or they have to be newly raised funds?
I think ideally we'd like it to be newly raised funds, but that's not a qualification. Other municipalities are using money they already have in their budget. Okay. But some of them, like Saugeen Shores, have committed to raising an extra $1,000. It was also to allow for, Madam Mayor, if you don't mind me explaining a little further.
Ahead. Thank you.
It would also allow for, if a community couldn't afford it in their budget, then they could raise the money through donations from corporations to the city or the town, and then they would be able to apply for the funding. It's just we require, the foundation has to flow through the town and the municipality or a charity for the funding to be given out. So we kind of need the agreement for that to work.
Right. Councillor Adair, thank you.
I'm just wondering, Your Worship, why don't we just go ahead and do this instead of asking for a report? I mean, Ms. Leffler has left $6 million to this community. I'm sure that we can find $1,000 in our tree planting budget to just make this happen. Let's not get all very complicated with staff reports, etc. Let's just go ahead and do it.
Well, we'll see what the mover says.
If that's a friendly amendment.
I think that is a completely friendly amendment. I want to move ahead with this, and I'm ready to vote on it now.
Okay then, that's good. Your presentation has been incredible, thank you. And I have to say, what a great opportunity. I think of the town of Goderich and the devastation that they had to endure as a result of the loss of trees from the tornado, and how it completely changed the face of that community for quite a period of time. Recently I was able to be in Goderich again, and they have planted huge new trees all around their town center, and you can see the sort of the spirit and the life of that community is really starting to come back. So trees are important to all of us, and I can tell you that looks like Council's going to pass this motion. Councillor Burden.
Yes, certainly I will support this motion, and I remember as well when I moved here 30 years ago where there were trees everywhere on every street, and we have lost our urban forest on many streets. So I think a program like this will let us really move forward with reforesting our urban landscape. At least I would hope that that's where we would concentrate.
Sometimes you're tempted to say something about not seeing the forest for the trees, but I won't go there. Okay. Oh, there we go. There we go.
Leave it alone.
Leave it alone. We'll make like a tree and leave. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you so much for your time, your presentation this evening. Good luck. We are now at public question period. Is there any member of the public who is remaining in this hot room this evening that would like to ask a question of this council? Anyone here who'd like to ask a question? Please step up to the podium and just state your name and address for the clerk. Thank you.
I am from away, but I'm also an Owen Sounder. And I would like to say I'm very glad to be back and participating in tonight and last Tuesday night. My name is Catherine Scholdice Body, and I'm very thankful to be back as an Owen Sounder, and I just want to thank you all for passing the heritage vote, whatever you want to call it. But I also lived in Goderich for 43 years, and yes, Mayor, it is coming back.
It is.
Where I lived wasn't touched, thank goodness, but I did have a young relative who had to rebuild his house. And so I think the tree planting going on here will be great too. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your kind comments, and welcome back to Owen Sound. Thank you. Anyone else in the audience who'd like to ask a question? Seeing none, thank you. We have one item of correspondence that requires council direction, and that's a notice from Heather Morrison with regards to the, oh dear, the intention to sell and convey the ownership of the Owen Sound Jail back from the county to the city. So we have that piece of correspondence in front of us. Councillor Lemon.
Well, I think we take note that we receive the correspondence. They're going to do what they're going to do. And there is an agreement that was in place many years ago.
1960.
Was it only
That was
60? I
signed.
thought it was before that. But
No,
anyway,
1960.
I would make a motion to receive the correspondence, and
Okay.
just what we always wanted was a municipal jail. Maybe we can stop people from breaking our municipal bylaws.
So the motion is to receive the correspondence. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. We have quite a lengthy consent agenda. There are 9 items, 12A, 1 through 9. A variety of planning notifications and comments, as well as new business licenses. It's Council's direction. Councillor Purdon?
I'd move approval of the consent agenda.
Is there any discussion or comments on any one of those items? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. We're at the reports section, 12B1. We have a report from the purchasing agent with regards to the T1308 electrical upgrade, the entrance switch upgrade at Harrison Park. This is part of a very lengthy process of upgrading the electrical at Harrison Park. Councillor Twaddle.
Thank you. I'll move the motion, but I believe in the 3-year maintenance agreement should be in place by January 1, 2014. I believe that's a typo.
Yeah. Duly noted. Thank you. All those in favor? Oh, Councillor McManaman, question.
Thank you, Worship. To the Director, the question about the existing Hydro One equipment, and so I'm unclear, there's an amount in here to purchase the existing equipment, and should it exceed that allowance, the purchase and supply of insulation from another source would be investigated. So could you just go over that? That seems odd.
Certainly, through you, Your Worship, we are working with Hydro One to obtain a quote to buy some of the equipment in the park. If we're unable to reach an agreement in terms of the price and the equipment that would be sold, we would be then required to go out and purchase that equipment. So we have an allowance in the budget of $43,000. That's the estimate provided through our engineering consultant of what that equipment should really cost, given the age and that. So we're hoping to be able to make arrangements to purchase that from Hydro One. I don't know if they have other plans for that equipment, but likely not. So we're hoping to be able to make that arrangement.
So if we weren't able to, they'd have to remove the existing equipment, and we'd bring in, let's hope we can reach an agreement then. Thank you.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We have a report from the purchasing agent with regards to the consulting services for implementing the integrated accessibility standards regulation. It's Council's direction on this. Essentially, this would be a consulting firm who would assess all the properties within the city and determine what needs to be done and by what date the modifications need to be made. Councillor McManaman?
Thank you, Worship. I'd be happy to move that we hire SPH Planning. Question for the Director, what was the budget for this?
Through you, Your Worship, the budget is $50,000 and the cost is $24,800.
Thank you. I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. We have a report from our community planner with regards to the Sydenham, which is an application for site plan approval at 60 to 80 on 9th Street East and 2 properties to the north of these addresses. This would be one of the good news stories tonight in terms of a site plan approval for a condo development. Is there any overview that council would like from the planner? I think it would be helpful if we had a brief walkthrough of this particular report, please.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. This is an application following on the heels of Council's approval of the zoning bylaw amendment. This is an application for site plan approval for the former Todd's building as well as the 2 buildings to the north. The proposal is to merge the properties. The Todd's building would have the roof come off, have helical piles and a steel frame built inside and go up 6 stories. The 2 buildings to the north would be removed to the ground level, leaving some building on the water side filled with structural fill. That's basically the area. It would go up between 2 and 4 stories, green roof on part of the building. The official plan designates the property downtown commercial as well as hazard, and subject to the zoning bylaw appeal period, the property zoned in a holding core commercial zone, subject to those special provisions. There's general site plan comments noted for council. There's sufficient parking. The site is consistent with the required site and building regs. In terms of two-way traffic, the applicant had submitted a request to make a portion of First Avenue East two-way. It's one-way now, just southbound traffic. Our engineering division has reviewed that and has just asked that the entrance and egress be switched to minimize the amount of two-way traffic, and we would be bringing forward a bylaw to facilitate that change, and a bylaw to amend the streets bylaw. There's along 9th Street as well as First Avenue improvements to those sections of the street with a drop-off on 9th Street, so those detailed plans would be going forward. The plan has been reviewed by our Accessibility Advisory Committee, and they have asked the developer to consider additional on-site barrier-free spaces. Some of the holding provisions address environmental and geotechnical conditions. As well, we're recommending architectural control through the use of the site plan agreement, and this will just ensure for council that the building is built in the way that it's been presented, that the bricks are retained, the new bricks match, the timber frames are retained. So staff are recommending council approve the site plan for 31 residential units and 1 commercial use, as well as indoor parking for that building, subject to the conditions outlined in Appendix A, and there are 7 conditions provided there.
Thank you. Council's direction. Councillor Purdon.
I would recommend or move that we approve the site plan agreement that's been presented by staff.
So the recommendation?
Yes, the recommendation.
Okay. Thank you. Discussion. Councillor McManaman.
Your Worship, to the Director, you talked about architectural control. I know we used that was used previously at the old OSCVI properties. Have there been other times where we've used it?
We've used it also for the St. Mary's addition, the more easterly addition, so that the new part of the school matched the old part of the school. So we've used it a few times.
Okay. And the other, just let me find it here, you're going to register this agreement on title until they take possession. When is it anticipated they take possession?
You'll see that there's sort of a complicated series of conditions that will require them to sign a site plan agreement, merge the properties, but we won't be able to, we can sign a site plan agreement with the numbered company. It won't be able to be registered on title until they're actually the owner, because the city can't have an agreement with ourselves. So the agreement can be signed, it will come forward to council for a bylaw, but it won't be able to be registered until they're in fact the owner of the property on 9th Street.
And when is that anticipated to be? When is the closing?
End of July.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you to the planner for the work on this. The developer has indicated on a couple of occasions the professionalism and the speed with which the city staff have worked with him on this particular project, and I think that's important to note. Thank you. We have also a site plan approval for 945 3rd Avenue East and 974 4th Avenue East. Again, these are a condo development. This is a condo development, and I will go to Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Your Worship, and another good news story.
Absolutely.
For the city. I think it's a very clever move that the people that are responsible for the professional building are putting in condo units there, and I think it's a great location for them, and I would be quite happy to move that recommendation.
Okay. Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Worship. I think this is, I agree with Councillor Wright, but I think it's important for the public to hear this as well. Could we get an overview of this plan as well?
Absolutely.
I'm just excited about it.
Thank you, Your Worship. This development of the former professional building has been named Center Suites. So the applicant, again, has applied for site plan approval for the conversion of the 3rd and 4th stories of that professional building at 945 3rd. There will be a separate application coming forward for the condominium. It's a 122,000 square foot building, so it's a very large building. No change in the footprint of the building. There was a small lot to the north where there was a house. The house was demolished and it's a gravel parking lot, and that area will be added to and provide parking. There are new concrete walkways and drop-off at the south side of the building leading into the access to the residential area. There's new landscaping. I'm really excited to say that it looks like the barrier on 3rd will come out, and there'll be at least 5 street trees planted in that area, kind of a genius way to use in the angled parking spaces that unused triangle to provide spaces for street trees. So we're really excited about that. There's an entrance from 3rd and 2 from 4th, and each of those will have barrier curbs and have landscaped islands. So the appeal of the site will be improved in addition to the work that's already been done. The property is designated downtown commercial, and certainly our official plan encourages intensification in this type of mixed use in the downtown. The C1 zone permits this mix of commercial and residential uses. The property meets the requirements in terms of the C1 zone. It was reviewed today by the Accessibility Advisory Committee, and that committee has, like the development on 9th Street, encouraged the developer, given the mixed uses in the building, to consider additional accessible spaces. We have a condition dealing with the record of site condition because it's a change of use to a more sensitive use. The developer is asking for permission to proceed with an agreement that will deal with those details as we move forward. So that's a creative thing that we've been able to work with the developer on. In addition, the developer has benefited from the separation of the storm roof water from the sanitary sewer system, so they've participated in that program. And the report also speaks to the fact they've indicated interest in the community improvement plan with respect to that brownfield cleanup, and there'll be a further report coming forward to council on the details of that application. So the recommendation is to approve the site plan for the conversion with 31 new residential units in that professional building, subject to the 6 conditions that are outlined for council in Appendix A.
Councillor Lemon.
Your Worship, it was with pleasure I moved the recommendation.
I already have a mover.
Oh, I'm sorry. But speaking to
carry
it, the
on.
one thing that accessibility did speak about is to encourage the developer to put more accessible parking units in, because the fact is that there probably will be people who are going to occupy the condominium who are going to need accessible parking. And particularly with the lab being there, there's a huge demand of people in wheelchairs, et cetera, who need those spaces. So we hope the developer will consider that with it, and I'm hoping he will. And I commend him for the fact that he's not just meeting the minimum standards in the total number of parking spaces, and perhaps he could expand that thinking to the accessible parking spaces as well.
Thank you. Councillor Chamberlain.
Yes, congratulations to all the work on this plan as well, and it's very exciting. I was wondered if we could move to the part of our presentation that has the elevations and the pictures, and just put that up on the screen, so that I was thinking that people at home might like to see that, because it's very exciting.
While the clerks are getting that image up on the screen, I think it's exciting to mention to council and to those that are watching or here tonight, if you think about the development that's happened in the city, proposed developments that are in front of us this evening, as well as the reuse of the former Family Y building on 2nd Avenue, and we are incredibly busy with commercial development on the Strip, with the lowest vacancy rate in the downtown in over a decade. I had a call from, I won't say which mayor, but a mayor from another community that Owen Sound is often compared to, and he called me on Friday and said, what are you guys doing up there? And you're getting so much development, we can't get a thing. So I think it really bodes well. It bodes well for the policies of this council, and it bodes very, very well for staff for implementing the policies as quickly as possible. So I think that's another good news item for everyone here. There we have some images, Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Boddy.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was going to hit on some of the things you just hit on. It's interesting. I'm going to sound like another councillor at the other end of the table, perhaps, but I recall being a young lad visiting my grandfather across 4th Avenue, and there is housing running along the parking lot of this property. And it's interesting that I'm living long enough to see a full circle back to some residential from the original industrial with residential around it to commercial to real estate. From economic development point of view, we've been working hard to try and create things and be ready when it happens. And I think we're seeing a tipping point finally with these buildings. We've got other properties that we believe will follow in the next year or two, hopefully. The amazing part of this is we're going to have urban residences downtown where we already have the infrastructure, we already have the water, we already have the sewer. We're not extending out onto farmland, spreading out where it's more expensive to bring these things, and it really speaks well to our community when we can add housing and residences where we already have the infrastructure. It isn't going to cost us a lot. We continue to need to attract new assessment, new residents to our community, and this last couple of weeks has just been amazing to see the hard work that's gone in and to start to see the results of it, and we really appreciate those people that are involved with it and see it move forward.
Thank you. Councillor McMahon.
Thank you, Worship. Two quick items. One, or about the motion talks about the on-street parking on 4th Avenue East, changing it. Are you just talking about the 2 or 3 spots for that one new entrance? Is that what that's discussing?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Okay, good. Second question is about stormwater management to Mr. McRoberts. There's some, you don't have full agreement with the developer on the stormwater management issues. Could you just speak to that? Because I think it's important if that's an item that's somewhat needs to be discussed further.
Yes, through your worship, certainly would be happy to speak to that. What we did do is we went through and looked at the plan. Of course, it's an existing property with an existing asphalt parking lot as well as a existing building with a roof line. What we typically would ask for in any type of site plan development, we would ask for them to meet our engineering standards as well as our official plan requirements to look at some type of stormwater management. In discussions with the proponent of this property, we did try to work with the proponent to come up with some type of a compromise that would be acceptable to the operations department. Unfortunately, the proponent resisted that compromise and wishes to just proceed without a stormwater management plan in place. So we've continued to express conditions within this site plan agreement that would reflect what we believed would be a reasonable compromise.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Purdon.
I also had a question about the stormwater management for Mr. McRoberts. Are there any programs that would be supportive or helpful for developers in terms of dealing with this kind of stormwater management when we have large areas of pavement? I know there's alternative ways of dealing with runoff from flat roofs and pavement. Are there programs or things available?
Through your worship, certainly the only program that we did have, which this proponent did take part in, was they took part in a separation program. Their original stormwater runoff from that property was running directly into our sanitary sewer. We did offer a program where we split and separated that. But from a standpoint of operating or supporting the implementation of stormwater management systems, the city does not provide any type of funding program or organization, and I'm not aware of any, grant or provincial or federal programs for that, but that doesn't mean there isn't.
Councillor Burden?
It's not really pertaining to this development because if there's nothing available, but we may as a city consider options in terms of reducing stormwater runoff going into our sewer system and our rivers at some point for the future.
Councillor Lemon?
Yes, Your Worship. If I've got this right, the proponent has already diverted the roof water into the stormwater system under the program that I believe still exists for that, which is good because that reduces our peak flows to the sewage plant and will help prevent overflows. But as a result of the changes that he's proposing to the ground in the area around the building, other than paving a very, very small area, there's essentially not going to be more storm water coming off that site than there is now. As a percentage, it might be 2 or 3% more, but it's not going to be humongous change from the current status, which has been there for many, many years, and the system has been able to accommodate it.
Mr. McRoberts?
Yes, through your worship, you're correct, Councillor. There is not a significant increase. The one new lot that has been merged with the property, which is currently gravel, will become paved. That would be an additional contribution to the storm water runoff, but it is the city's policy with respect to these programs to basically try to improve our stormwater retention, so quantity as well as quality, but certainly it's at council's discretion to waive those requirements. But certainly that's not a discretion that staff felt comfortable with making on their own. So we bring forward what we saw was a minimum requirements, and certainly council can make any decision they so wish.
Councillor Chamberlain, then Councillor Twaddle.
Yes, I was just going to comment on the new trees that are planned for the property. That will actually serve as a very good rain garden. It'll help to collect some of the water, and any other landscaping that's done will really help in this regard as well. So I compliment that.
Councillor Twaddle.
Would any of this work qualify under the community improvement plan?
Your Worship, the community improvement plan will provide an incentive relating to the brownfield remediation for the property as well. The community improvement plan has a incentive with respect to development charges and new residential where there isn't a net increase in service demand. So I'm not sure to what extent their consulting engineer will do an estimate of pre and post development use of service, but they would be eligible for a rebate on part of those DCs.
So would stormwater management qualify as an environmental improvement?
No, it would not.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you so much, and we look forward to that moving forward. We have a report from our event facilitator with regards to the Look-Up Theatre for Summer Circus Workshops. This is an agreement, I believe. The city has engaged with this group in previous years. Councillor Chamberlain.
I move that we accept this recommendation.
So if anybody wants to run away with the circus, I guess this would be.
Fine, I've been waiting all these years.
All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. We have a report from Director of Operations. This was as a request from Council in terms of ridership data for Saturday transit service. Perhaps, Mr. McRoberts, you could run through this with council.
Sure. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you.
The request was to look at our ridership numbers for Saturdays. The debate was whether or not we would eliminate Saturday service between the hours of 4 and 5:30. So looking at the ridership numbers, basically between those hours of 9 a.m. till 4 p.m., 9,400 riders. Between the hours of 4 p.m. and 5:30, we have 1,100 hours. Looking at what the potential savings would be with respect to the ridership, certainly prorating our revenue generation per rider based upon $1.15, we would get about $1,200 of revenue loss if we were to eliminate that ridership. And looking at it, depending upon a 4 or 3 route system, which is still up for council's discussion at a later date, once the RFPs are returned, we're either looking at a $25,000 savings or a $20,000 savings in terms of operations, which ultimately nets you a net savings anywhere between $23,800 to $18,800.
Thank you. Councillor Lemon.
Your Worship, through you to Director of Operations. Actually, I believe the saving is larger than that, because I don't see anywhere in there where you're calculating that you will not be operating specialized transit during those hours. So that tops up the saving, and I don't know what the cost per hour is going to be of specialized, but it doesn't appear that that number is in there.
So, Your Worship, that number actually is in there. That does include both specialized and as well as the conventional transit system. That's a full number for the entire transit service.
Oh, it doesn't, the way it's worded, I did not think it was in there. But that is a worthwhile saving. That's a significant saving by a very small reduction, and it makes sense to me.
Are you moving the motion, Councillor?
I will move the motion, yes.
So is the motion then to terminate bus service at 4 o'clock on Saturdays?
Yes, I think we should give some time for notice to people that it will stop at that time.
Okay.
But prior giving proper notice that we reduce the operating hours on Saturday. In talking to the manager of the system at the bus depot, she indicated that the number of people who use the bus at that time is minimal.
Okay. Mr. McRoberts.
Just a quick clarification. I think it would be best if we just did it as part of the transition that comes effective October 1st once we've awarded a new transit service contract, rather than trying to do anything in the interim. So October 1st will be our begin date. We have plenty of time for notice to advise the transit users of any changes that may forthcome with respect to transit in the next few months.
And I agree with you. One change and everything is better than piecemeal. I wasn't thinking about that when I moved the recommendation, but it would come into effect when any changes to the routes go into effect.
So October 1st. Okay. Councillor Purdon.
I'm not in favor of this decision or this motion. I think we're cutting the transit system by nicks and cuts all the way through. We took a lot of pieces out of the transit system with increasing fares and motions to close the transit station at our last meeting. I would much prefer to see us have a complete look at the costing with transit when the RFP is finished, before we make any decisions on further cuts. There are many people who rely on transit. I'm concerned that our ridership, when we have so many cuts, will be just a cumulative effect on the ridership, when people will just kind of give up on transit. And I was thinking, as we were saying good news about the professional center and the Sydenham downtown, that we do need to think about what pressure that puts on transit. People will want to go to the hospital from these downtown locations. Condos are often good housing for people who may not have a car or be able to use a car.
there may be increased demand for transit, the way we're developing our downtown and the way we've chosen to develop our downtown. So I think we need to consider that. So I'm not in favor of the motion.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We have a report from the Manager of Engineering Services with regards to 4th Street East Storm Sewer Project, and I believe Mr. Webb has arrived. Not that we hope this is the last time we see you, but we hope that this is the last update.
Thank you, Your Worship, and members of Council.
Welcome.
Appreciate the welcome and an opportunity to update Council on the status of this project, and also happy to report that I believe I will not be back here in 2 weeks, based on the progress and the state of completion of the site. So just very briefly, on the screen right now, we have the overall general site plan for the project. In the last 2 weeks, some technical issues were resolved, and the contractor, with the good weather, has made some good headway. In fact, all of the lower portion of the project, which includes the channel, which was already in place, but particularly where the pipe outlets into the channel, the head wall, and the energy dissipation structure is now constructed and completed. The contractor is actually just spreading and grading topsoil with a view to providing hydro seeding later this week. So I expect by the end of this week, unless we have some severe weather, that we'll have the lower portion of the project completed. And then they'll proceed, and maybe even later this week, proceed to the upper portion of the project. Essentially what that is where we're diverting the existing storm sewer. We'll be disconnecting it and directing it to the new structure at the top of the hill. And then this system will then go into operation. And the only work after that will be to decommission the old or existing storm sewer pipe, which we'll be doing by filling it with sand to stabilize it and provide for groundwater seepage, because it will continue to collect groundwater because it's so compromised, basically full of holes. So with that, I also wanted just to provide some comments on the tree situation. Because of the slope failure in the upper portion of the project, because of the realignment of the pipe, that area, we've gone back to our geotechnical engineer for comment regarding planting of trees, and it's not recommended to do it at this time. With the construction, actually the slope stability has improved post-construction, and we've actually had the contractor place granular materials that will stabilize the slope. It's going to be topsoiled and seeded over that, and their recommendation is to make sure that that slope and that work is established for perhaps a year. We'll observe and be able to see clearly, hopefully, that things will have stabilized. And then I think after that time, we will consider what might be appropriate for tree planting in that area. And we'll be consulting with Parks and Open Space Division, because that is an area that's generally under their jurisdiction. So with that, if there are any questions.
Thank you so much. I'm sure there'll be a couple of questions. Councillor Lemon.
Yes, there are certain plants that I studied when I was at Guelph that have the ability to retain the soil on a slope. And would you consider that type of approach? Because what happens is it builds a mat that holds the soil in place. And once it's growing, it doesn't require any maintenance whatsoever, because it grows up about 14 or 15 inches and then falls over. And it provides protection for birds and small chipmunks, squirrels, etc.
Right. Yes, definitely.
Good. Thank you.
Councillor Chamberlain.
I'd just like to say congratulations. You said it would be done by June the 30th. I've been walking every day watching it happen. Many, many people are working, and I heard them working really late at night one day, overtime. So they're going to have it done, and I thank you for that. It's good.
Thanks.
Further discussion? Thank you very much for this update, and I'm sure the whole community is looking forward to the construction to stop. So.
Yes. Well,
to be completed.
The use of the trail will resume as per usual by next week.
No, that's great. Thanks very much. Those projects are very invasive to neighborhoods, and they're sometimes uncomfortable to get through. So. We have a series of boards and committees for council's approval. It's council's direction. Councillor Purdon.
I would move approval of the minutes. I think there's 3 sets, the bylaw and I think wastewater treatment, community planning and heritage. I think those are the 3.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We have 3 sets of in-camera minutes for approval. It's council's direction. Councillor Purdon?
I'll approve the motion to approve the in-camera minutes.
Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. We do have a notice of motion, and Councillor Lemon.
Yes, Your Worship, it is with great pleasure that I withdraw the motion, because at this point the action has been taken that was contemplated by the motion. I thank council for their support.
Thank you. The motion is withdrawn. Other business. I will go to Councillor Wright. No.
Thank you, Your Worship. At the meeting I attended at the Legion last week, it was mentioned that the city had $800,000 in surplus funds, and why was that money not perhaps used for other reasons? And so I'd like Mr. Ritchie to remind us and the public what happened and why we had that $800,000 plus surplus, please.
Certainly, through you, Your Worship. Surplus funds, number 1, as council is aware, we use those for one-time items the following year. We cannot use them to reduce the budget because they are one-time funds. Hopefully, we have surplus, but certainly not of that magnitude. So with that, the reason for the surplus, and this was reported through the Finance Advisory Committee at our March meeting, and those minutes, by the way, are on the city website under Financial Services for any members of the public who would like the full details. But briefly, quoting from the Manager of Accounting's report that night, our road maintenance had a savings of $400,000 in 2012. That is mostly due to weather conditions, not only the relatively mild winter and spring of 2012, but also the lack of moisture throughout the summer. So we had savings in winter control, as well as savings on some of our drainage issues that in the past have certainly cost us some funds. Waste management overall, both the waste management and landfill, we had a $250,000 savings there. Much of that was, again, weather-related, lack of moisture at the landfill. We didn't have as much leachate to haul. And our recycling revenues stayed high throughout 2012. And as council is aware, they can be quite volatile. And they did stay high throughout 2012, so we had a $250,000 surplus out of waste management and landfill. We had some wage gapping in 2012. We had some staff we anticipated hiring that we didn't get hired at the times we did, and that resulted in a roughly $100,000 savings. We had lower spending for legal and consulting fees of about $100,000. We had anticipated several issues there that did not develop, and again, that resulted in a one-time savings of about $100,000 in those 2 areas. Our insurance costs, mostly through our deductibles, as well as some good negotiating that OMEX did on our behalf, were about $100,000 less than we had budgeted. Going on, probably the next one that would be of interest is, and it was some of it mentioned tonight, was some of the development we're seeing. Our planning and application, or engineering application fees were higher by about $120,000, and that related to Heritage Grove, Woodland Estates, and the Lutheran housing development. So that was most of what the surplus was created from.
Thank you very much, and I guess I just wanted to stress the point that we did budget. We budgeted responsibly, and we really had no control over the surplus. It was indeed a good news to have that surplus and have that extra money. So thank you. Yes, sorry.
If I could, Your Worship, certainly the winter we experienced or the spring we experienced tells us that we are many of our costs are very sensitive to the weather. And we'll be monitoring them closely throughout the summer and fall to make sure that we won't have a surplus of that magnitude, but we want to avoid a deficit.
And my second item was, on the new 10th Street extension, we have a center of the road boulevard. I have to tell you that that's an eyesore, and I did raise it before and asked that we could plant reeds or plant something in there other than weeds. And right now, it is sorely affected with weeds, and they're not being cut. And I just wonder, I know we have a wonderful parks board. We have beautiful gardens all over the city that are very attractive. Surely to goodness, we can come up with something to put in that center boulevard there that would be a lot more attractive than what's already there. I don't want to come back next year and ask this, well, I won't be here probably, but I don't want to have to ask the same thing next year.
We don't want to ask it either, but I see the Director of Community Services has a response, and I'm thinking some of those perennial tall grasses that look so beautiful that, yes, but we'll go to Ms. Coulter.
We'll certainly thank you, and we'll make sure that the weeds are cut. We certainly acknowledge the motion. We were planning to develop a plan for 2014. There will be a budget impact. There will be a cost to that. We have to be cognizant that it is an area where cars may need to get into the boulevard and be able to drive over it. So we'll certainly be talking to operations in the development of that plan, but certainly Mr. Howard has that on his radar. So thank you.
If you go down the Pretty River Parkway in Collingwood, they have the same thing, and they have that grass, tall grass in it. It's prairie grass or something. No maintenance. You don't have to cut it. You don't have to do anything. So there's got to be a savings in no grass cutting. Just fill it up with prairie grass, and it will be attractive and no maintenance, and it will look a lot better than the weeds.
Anything else tonight, Councillor Wright? Thank you very much. Councillor Lemon, you have something on reciprocity.
Yes, I will get to that, but I did have a comment. I agree with Councillor Wright. I was up there the other day, and it's ugly. And under the property standards bylaw, that does apply to city properties. And there's also a thing on noxious weeds that may be in that area. I'm really disappointed that something wasn't done more than being a field of, you talk about a field of dreams, that's a field of weeds, and it's an embarrassment. Anyway, idea on reciprocity. I've had actually in the last month 3 people speak to me about something we used to have and don't have and might be able to have at minimal expense. Way back when there was Department of Highways, there was in Owen Sound several occasions, directional signs, Meaford, Chatsworth, Sauble Beach, Wyerton, etc. And there were signs in other municipalities pointing their way to Owen Sound. And what I don't know who would do it, but I'd like to see us explore a reciprocity agreement with our neighbors over, could we put a sign, I'm going to use Meaford as an example. If we put a sign to Meaford up on 16th Ave or wherever, then Meaford would put a sign in Meaford directing people, this is how you get to Owen Sound. And that's what I'm looking at. And this would be a cooperative reciprocity agreement. I think it's a great first step in building bridges. And so I don't know who on staff that comes under. I can think of it operations, I can think of the city manager, I can think of community services, I can think of economic development, just about everybody at the cemetery.
I'm going to refer to the city manager.
Thank you, Your Worship. I can advise council that at the most recent CAO's meeting that's countywide, the county brought up the issue of signage and the fact that they have a new logo and they want to be consistent branding across the county. One of the things they're looking at is the standards that RTO 7 has put forward and that have been implemented in large part in Bruce County. And we'd like to spread particularly wayfaring signs, such as the ones that Councillor Lemon's referring to, that there be consistency across the county. So if you give us more time, that is being worked on.
Would there be, through you, your worship, the city manager, would there be any chance of, would the county put up these signs, or would the local municipality put them out under the vision that you expressed?
That's still to be determined. It probably is a faster process than me trying to get agreement with our neighbors on doing the signs.
Councillor Lemon, just at early discussions, it is an initiative that the county is looking at, and the
Good.
implementation.
Excellent. And that, I think, will be beneficial to everyone, because one of the people works in one of the convenience stores, and this person came in totally frustrated right at 9th Avenue and 16th Street and asked the clerk in there, "Where's me fruit?" And she pointed the correct direction. And then I've had other people speak to me about it as well. I'm pleased to see it is being discussed. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. I don't believe we had any other items of other business. We do have to return to our in-camera portion of our meeting, which is downstairs in the basement boardroom, so the committee will not rise and report at this time. We will return to our in-camera portion. I thank you for being here this evening, and if there's anyone left watching at home, for watching this evening as well.